When we think of a desert, what comes into our mind? Probably sand dunes, extremely hot weather, lack of water, no trees. That is exactly the picture that we will visualize, right? What if I tell you the recent research by NASA actually has figured out that there is 1.8 billion trees, that is 180 crore trees that is available in Sahara as a desert. Yeah, I'm telling you about the largest hot desert in the world. I am BalaGanesh, and in this video we're going to discuss about this recent discovery of NASA discovering 180 crore trees in Sahara as a desert. Did NASA manually count 1.8 billion trees? Of course not. NASA would not sit and manually count 1.8 billion trees. What they have used is a basic image processing. But with respect to how they have made this mapping using image processing, I'd like to explain a very small practical example before we get into this detail. If you take this cap as an example, when you're seeing it from the camera's angle, you only see this part of the cap. However, if at all I'm changing the angle of the cap and you are seeing it from the top angle, probably you will be only seeing this part of the cap. So when you're going to see a tree from the top angle as well, you're going to see only some area that is being occupied by the tree from the top angle. So what they have taken in this study is, if at all a tree is occupying 3 into 3 meters of space physically from the top angle, then that is counted as a tree and that is being mapped as a tree. So they have manually taken 90,000 trees and taken images of it, manually mapped these 90,000 trees and figured that this mapping is going very precisely. Once this precision is achieved post 90,000 trees of machine learning, they have gone for image processing where they have extended the area of study. They have extended the area of study into 5 lakh square miles, that is 13 lakh square kilometers, which is a part of a semi-arid region in Sahara desert. And in this particular area alone, they have found out that there is 180 crore trees, that is 1.8 billion trees, that is there in this area. There was a myth that these are semi-arid regions and that there is probably very less vegetation there and there is very less trees that grow there. Now this study is a huge breakthrough. To have a better understanding of the merits of this finding, do watch the video completely. To understand how this finding will positively impact climate change, we should firstly understand what carbon cycle is. We may all be aware of water cycle, right? Where water evaporates, gets stored in the clouds, comes back as rain, gets stored in various water bodies, including probably icebergs, again evaporates, gets stored in the clouds. This cycle continues. Similarly, carbon also, in fact, carbon is called building block of life. It's a very important element. Carbon also follows a similar cycle, where there are certain activities that will be producing carbon dioxide or releasing carbon into the atmosphere. There are certain activities that will be consuming carbon from atmosphere. For example, a tree is a huge carbon sink. That too, these forest areas are called carbon sinks. Forest areas consume carbon, while there are other areas and other activities like say burning a fossil fuel or burning a wooden log, us exhaling produces carbon dioxide as well. This cycle also continues. Now with respect to carbon cycle, there is a huge imbalance. There is a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is the primary cause of climate change. Primary thing that we'll have to do is probably reduce the carbon content from the atmosphere. How can we do this? The solution to this complex problem is pretty simple. There are only two things that we'll have to do. One is to reduce the amount of carbon that we let into the atmosphere, that is reducing the carbon footprint. Second is taking more carbon from the atmosphere and storing it on Earth. How do we do this? By planting more trees. These are plain and simple two ways, right? With respect to trees, there are two things that we'll have to remember. One, we'll have to plant more trees. Two, we'll have to lose less trees. When I say lose, when I don't say cut, I precisely mean lose because we even lose trees to forest fires. This is precisely what we'll have to do. Now, considering fighting climate change being such a simple two-step process, how can NASA's recent discovery help catalyzing it? There are 4 ways in which NASA's recent discovery can help it. First way, so far we don't have any tracking mechanism to track trees that is growing outside of forest areas. So all the trees that is being tracked across the globe have only been confined to forest areas. This is the first ever study that is helping map individual non-forest area trees through image processing and then getting an accurate figure and count over it. For example, we have so far never counted what is the kind of carbon that is stored in deserts. Now with respect to this finding, we know 180 crore trees are there. If we are able to find the kind of carbon each tree is storing, we will be able to easily extrapolate and figure what is the kind of carbon that is stored in this area. This is a huge breakthrough. With this, we can clearly understand the kind of deficit that we have. So the kind of carbon that is there in atmosphere, amount of carbon that we'll have to get down and then get stored in the trees. What is the deficit in number of trees that we have? So far we have only count of trees with respect to the forest areas, right? With individual mapping like this, we can get a better ideal count this way. The second and one of the most important benefit of this finding according to me is very simple. We can have a micro targeted, very micro targeted ownership of green space. When I'm saying very micro targeted ownership of green space, we can go to country level, even a state or a city level, and say, this year we have cut X number of trees for say infrastructural developments. These are non-forest area trees, probably for road expansion or any infrastructural development. You have cut so many trees. What is the number of trees you have planted? Since we can very accurately and minutely track individual trees, this is the kind of precision that we can achieve and increase the green space in each of the country. Climate change being an extremely important thing that all countries are trying to fight now, this kind of ownership and this kind of micro-managed ownership is clearly the need of the hour, and this technology, if at all implemented properly, could help achieving this kind of a micro-target ownership. The third benefit is, so far there was a myth, right, that semi-arid regions of Sahara desert might not be having trees. This study is a huge breakthrough where we have now realized there is 180 crore trees that's there. When we are able to understand that there is 180 crore trees, we can probably even do more research and figure out how we can repopulate this area as well and make it even a larger green cover. When there is possibility of trees growing here, why not make it even better? So that is something that is another possibility that scientists can explore on. The fourth benefit is they are already researching on this. When in semi-arid region that is less inhabitable for these trees, when in such regions if trees can grow and store a lot of carbon, what about the regions where there is a conducive environment for these trees to grow? In these areas, if at all these trees can store more carbon by probably doing some study basis these trees that storing carbon in these semi-arid regions, if at all we can research and then figure out some way to make these trees in the regular forest areas to store more carbon, and if we are able to break through in that aspect, then again the carbon storage will be boosted. So these are the various aspects in which this research is going on. Hope you found this post informative and useful. Climate change is the need of the hour. We should all at an individual levels take a pledge to reduce our carbon footprint and be as green as possible. So that is the final message with which I want to conclude this video. Do support, do subscribe, spread the word. Thank you so much.